My name is Jabbar. I'm an Iraqi artist based in Abu Dhabi. My background's in architecture. My work oscillates across architecture, design, and the visual arts. The foundation of my practice is in architecture, and I use that, in terms of my research and the way I kind of see the world or see the work. But for the past few years, my primary focus in terms of research has been around ancient Mesopotamian history and culture. So looking towards kind of artifacts and mythology and sculpture and architecture. But then also at the same time kind of engaging with a more personal history related to kind of maybe memory or narratives that I've sort of inherited from my family from modern day Iraq. Up until 2016, I had never engaged with Iraq in terms of my practice. It's a place that kind of existed in the very outer edges of my memory. It's a place that I accessed through my family photo albums, and I kind of imagined it through stories that my parents would tell me and these kind of objects and remnants that we had of the place in the house. And it was really in 2016 with a project called Excavations Abu Dhabi in Dubai Design Week that I co-curated with another Iraqi designer named Hossein Zangana. It was really that kind of first step, that first invitation into really exploring that space for me, that connection. I was sort of interested in, the time, especially the past, 5 to 10 years. A lot of these historic sites have been threatened by terrorist organizations, ISIS, so on and so forth. And I was really interested in kind of looking at the extent of that damage in Iraq, and the minaret of Ana popped up. It is such an iconic structure for the people of Ana, and it's also very unique architecturally. There isn't really another structure like it. In my search, I was connected to a local archaeologist based in Ana named Yusuf Ad-Daham, who was really pivotal in the project and the reconstruction of that building. I was very happy to be able to kind of present that as part of library circles and Jamil Art Center. And it really generated a lot of discourse, amongst the people that were there in the Iraqi community. And so this sort of like tension and really think about like, how do we deal with our heritage? How do we make it relevant to us today? And how do we think about ways to, make it present in our daily lives and in the way we kind of see ourselves or see our future? The Minaret of Ana project and its development into the work and the river washing its feet that was shown at Phantom Limb was for me very special because, it was the very first time that I got to make work in Iraq. And so I went back, and that project was really about recasting those molds that I met on my very first trip. To me, that felt like finally I'm able to actually, do something on the ground or be part of something. And the idea was to produce casts that not only made their way back to Dubai for the show, but there was a kind of second copy that was going to stay in Ana, stay with its people. And the river washing its feet is an installation comprised of the 8 casts of the Minaret of Ana's carved niches. And with it are projections of video and sound of 2 main videos. One is kind of home video footage that I got from Yusuf's archive. I actually found out recently that the man in the film is Yusuf's uncle. But he takes his young children to the riverbank and he talks to them about the minaret, its importance, and how it's actually going to be moved. And you see the minaret kind of surrounded by scaffolding. And then he sings this song that's actually about loss, and it's so beautiful. And then the second film is a film showing the rising water levels in Ana as the Euphrates was basically flooded. My interest in archaeology really came out of the excavations project in 2016. It started off kind of like digging through museum collections and archives and just responding to encounters with like sculpture and object. I started the work for Earthly Wonders, Celestial Beings a month after coming back from Iraq. There was really this decision almost like immediately or naturally to work with clay and ceramics. Because Iraq is a clay culture, we don't have kind of stone or marble or that kind of thing. So it felt really natural to be able to work almost with the earth. In all my work, it's trying to kind of build an image from fragments or retell a story through its fragments. And so this is not a complete picture or a whole, but together in their dialogue, it's trying to create a conversation between our past and present, and in some way draw attention to a history that's very fragile. So I was part of SIF cohort 4. SIF is the Salama bint Hamdan Emerging Artist Fellowship. And SIF for me, kind of coming in, I was a bit, uneasy, I'd say maybe, about the kind of artist title at the time. I saw myself as more kind of in the realm of architecture and design. It was really the first space that I felt that I had the kind of freedom to explore things that, I don't know, how do I describe it? Like kind of keep you up at night, It's just sort of like in the complete, quiet and stillness, where does your mind go? What interests you? What attracts you? As you know, in the UAE, it's finding a studio space and maintaining a studio practice, which is something that SIF, I think, instilled in all of us, is a bit difficult. It's challenging when there aren't that many spaces available. I think studio practice has become really important for me because it's finally a space to explore things without really any pressure, a pressure to show. It instills in you a sense of curiosity, that you constantly have things that are attracting you, that are kind of half baked or half finished, but it's almost like this arsenal that you have, or like a toolkit that you have that you can always draw on, So I might start a project and then kind of drift away from it and then return back to it a few years later. And that's actually happening right now. I'm developing work around a particular myth called Inanna's Descent to the Underworld. And this is kind of research that I started, maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, just kind of reading about and then put aside and then you just sort of return to. I haven't been able to access the studio for the past 4 months. There's a lot of talk around productivity, like, how do you measure productivity, particularly in the pandemic? And a lot of people feeling like, I'm not making, therefore I'm not productive. And I think it's actually sometimes in these kind of moments in between, the pauses, the time when you're just sort of reflecting, where you feel like you've actually made so much more progress. Despite, the lack of productivity, I think I've made a lot of progress in my thinking, in my research, that now that I'm kind of able to return, I just feel like I have so much energy and desire to just kind of get back into the rhythm of things and start making.